Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first broadcast of Hot Mess Life Coach, which is the show for people trying to get it together while the world seems to fall apart. I am your host, Brian Hogan, and I want to talk to you guys today about a topic that is special and dear to my heart, which is what in the heck is a life coach anyway? So that's what we're going to discuss. But before we do, I also want to share with you something that's close to my heart, which is what I believe to be a very exciting time to be alive, which is the transformation of human consciousness taking place on the planet. In full transparency, I am also a hot mess. I am learning new software platforms as I do this. I have all these bells and whistles, like these fancy captions that I'm going to be trying to play with as we talk today. So hopefully I'm looking in the right place and it feels like I'm making good eye contact with you, but be patient with me as I learn how to stream live to multiple platforms. This show should be coming at you on my Facebook page, my Facebook profile, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and if all goes well, Instagram, but there's a bit of a workaround for Instagram. So if you are in the Instagram universe, you may be watching this a little bit later. But I just want to say thank you all for being here. And to those of you that aren't here but are planning to watch the replay, that means the world to me as well. And I thank you for that. So without further ado, let's just dive in a little bit. So welcome to this show. The reason I say that this is the show for people trying to get it together while the world seems to fall apart is because that's just what it is. It seems to be falling apart because transitions are hard. And in psychology, there's something called the negativity bias, which essentially makes it so human beings scan the environment for the worst possible thing that could happen, for the worst case scenario. And in that worst case scenario, we tend to miss a lot of the positive and beautiful things that are happening in life. So this developed as an evolutionary thing because millions of gazillions of years ago, if we didn't scan the environment for something negative, then when we heard the sound of a twig snap, if it was a tiger coming to attack us, then we would be dead because the tiger would attack us. And so the negativity bias was a way of helping us to stay alive, to survive. But times are different now. And even though times are different now, that negativity bias had millions and millions of years to become part of our evolution. Whereas the thinking brain, the neocortex, the part that turns off the internal brain alarms, is relatively new, just a couple 100,000 years old. And so to develop a positivity bias, which is what I think that we're living through now on the planet, is the planet learning to develop a positivity bias. But that's hard because we're competing with millions and millions of years of evolution. So it seems like the world is falling apart. It seems like the world is going to hell in a handbasket and that things are hopeless right now. But that's because they're painful and it's because they're unpredictable. But birth is painful, and birth is actually one of the most exciting things that could possibly happen. You're here because of birth. I'm here because of birth. Birth is an act of creation. And yet at hour 10 in the labor process, I'm not a woman, but I can imagine you guys are like, oh my God, can this please be over with? And yet actually it's something beautiful that is being created. Healing is painful. It's a wound that's learning to become a scar and then learning to disappear altogether. But that process of healing, I broke my tailbone last year and I was laid up for 3 months and I could barely move and I had to sit down in the chair ever so tenderly. Side note benefit to that is that I was using butt cushions for a while and I still keep a butt cushion in my car now just because I'm a convert and butt cushions are actually super comfortable and I'm going to be using one for the rest of my life. So whether you broke your tailbone or not, I highly recommend butt cushions, and I am not an affiliate of the butt cushion marketplace, but they are awesome. So the point is, healing is painful. Healing can be very painful. And yet healing is another form of growth. Muscle growth is painful. We're taking a muscle that's weak or atrophied and we're making it strong. And if we're consistent enough, we're making it swoon worthy. But that's not a pleasant and fun process until you start to get into it, until you start to get used to it. Learning is painful. We go from struggling with a concept, feeling inept, feeling incompetent, like I do right now with the Restream software and trying to play with these fun titles like that one. That, oh, look, Hot Mess Life Coach. But I don't know how to do these super well. What the heck is a life coach anyway? So these are so I'm learning this platform, and it's painful. I have to tell you, like, it's a struggle to not feel like you have it all together, to not feel competent and confident and profound and wise and funny, all in the very first time you try something out. But as you learn through struggle, it becomes second nature, and then it starts to become fun, and then it starts to become worth it. So the most exciting things, the best things, the beautiful sweet nectar of being alive, it happens through struggle. It happens because of struggle. The earth is going through that struggle right now. This is my personal belief. So it looks scary. It looks really scary, but it's not. It's growing. It's improving. It's becoming better. We are going through a transformation of human consciousness on this planet from a millions-year-old negativity bias through the learning process to realizing that we can actually have a positivity bias because we have technology that can solve all of our problems now. We have connectivity that can help us come together and end things like perpetual war. The only thing holding us back is our thinking. It's our thinking that is in the way. So pain is the medium through which everything gets better, stronger, faster, smarter. So what seems like the world falling apart right now is actually the birth pangs of a new way of being for humanity, a brand new way of being. And yes, there's crumbling, but there's creativity too. There's untapped creativity. The world is calling, in my opinion now, for each of us to live in our true nature now more than ever and to be authentically ourselves. So that's why I call this show Hot Mess Life Coach, because in some ways we're all hot messes. And we're all just trying to stumble through life, to get it together, to do the best we can. And honestly, that's why some of us need coaching from time to time. Because what is crumbling is the old ways. I actually had a session with a life coach this morning before coming on to do this, because I'm still a hot mess. And I wanted to make sure that I showed up as my best self for you guys, that I showed up competently, and that I had it all together, and that my presentation was seamless. But what I realized through my coaching is that what I actually wanted to do, what was deepest in my heart when I got past the cultural fears of needing to show up and look professional and needing to show up and have it all together, was that actually what I wanted to do was show up as myself, was just show up and be me. And because that's what coaches are trying to encourage each other to do, is to show up and to bring our own authentic, unique mojo to the world. I want to add to the world the Brian Hogan mojo. And I want each of you to learn to add your mojo to the world without shame, without fear of reprisal, without cultural's lie that says you have to do it perfectly. You have to do it right the first time. You have to have it all together. You have to know the answers. Those are some of the things that are left over from our negativity bias. And those are some of the cultural ways of thinking that are really starting to fall away now, that are starting to disintegrate on this planet. And as they disintegrate, it's scary, because what crumbles along with all of those ways of thinking? The institutions that hold up those ways of thinking are starting to crumble. The cultural rules that hold up those ways of thinking are starting to crumble, that say we have to be productive all the time, that say it has to be a dog eat dog world out there. What about a dog feed dog world? There's no reason that it can't be different. When we spend our time measuring ourselves against a standard of perfection, we're actually measuring ourselves, as Tony Robbins would say, against the lowest possible standard there is, because we're measuring ourselves against a fantasy, because perfection is a fantasy. And yet, even though we know that, we can know that cognitively, I know that in my heart, it doesn't stop me from wanting to seem perfect or look perfect or even present myself as perfect to you guys here today on my show. Ooh, look, a title change. See, I'm learning. But I'm not perfect, but I'm learning. And it's okay. Like, when we fool ourselves into this illusion that we have to be perfect, what we're actually doing is letting ourselves off the hook from striving to become more, from striving to become authentic, from striving to become our true selves, our best selves. And even as I speak now, I realize as I'm talking to you, I don't like the word striving. I don't think we need to strive. I think we need to relax. There's something, modern science is validating something called the rest and play cycle, where we learn best in a playful atmosphere and we learn best when we've had enough rest. So that's another thing that's starting to birth itself on the planet, is this understanding that we can go back to the rest and play cycle that our ancestors used to do before culture got in the way, before achievement culture got in the way, before believing in media lies got in the way and falling for propaganda and the idea of the patriarchy and the scarcity mindset and all of these things that are showing themselves through the way the world is becoming scary and crumbling around us, that they are now obsolete. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing a world that's falling apart. We're seeing a world that is shaking off obsolete ways of thinking. We're shaking off the way of thinking that says, I need to be perfect. We're shaking off the way of thinking that says, I need to achieve XYZ in order to have value. We're shaking off a way of thinking that says, I am not enough just as I am, because we are. In the Toltec tradition, and the Toltec, it is just a word that means artist. And the Toltec tradition is the tradition where we get the Four Agreements, the book by Don Miguel Ruiz. And in the Toltec tradition, they understand that everything is perfect just as it is. They call it the imperfect perfection of the present moment. And I love that so much, because the present moment will seem imperfect to the cultural version of us that wants something to be slightly different than it is, or that maybe has some joint pain, or maybe feels like we failed or didn't show up as our best self, or told a little white lie. But the truth is, we can learn from every tiny thing that happens to us. And in that sense, the world is unfolding perfectly in every way. But we've known some of these cultural lies for decades, even centuries. And in some cases, like the patriarchy, we've been in this cultural lie for millennia. So it's scary to be alive during a time when what I truly believe is one of the most massive transformations of human consciousness in recorded history is taking place. We're living through a great awakening, even in the midst of what seems like a great crumbling. And this is where life coaches come in. I've needed coaching to help myself question my own inner narratives, to help myself question my false beliefs about my worthiness, or about my enoughness, or about my ability to try something new and succeed at it. Like right now, showing up here for you guys, this morning, there was a lot of fear in my throat about showing up live on social media, but something in my heart of hearts said, this is what's right for you, Brian. You're going to have fun doing this. You're going to love doing this. And if I didn't give myself permission to follow that internal pull of my heart, then I wouldn't be able to find my joy and follow my own path into my best destiny. But that's not always easy. And sometimes we need a little guidance to do something like that. So that's where life coaches come in. I had a session with a very talented life coach just moments before coming on live with you. And she helped me to realize that I wanted to show up as my authentic self, not some phony, glitzy, perfect version of me. And even as I say that, you can know that this background is highly curated. I cleaned up my room. I primed the pillows. I even flattened out the wrinkles on my piano bench. So, you know, we're still all learning as we go through this. Like maybe in a couple months, I'll show up and I'll let the piano bench be wrinkled, but not today. My fear wasn't going to let that happen. But what's beautiful is I have that awareness. I have that awareness of the places where I'm still holding on to beliefs that no longer serve me. So yes, I straightened out the wrinkles in the bench, but did I need to do that? No. Do I know now that I didn't need to do that? Yes. Did I do it anyway because I'm still struggling through as a hot mess with all my fear of letting go of culture's lies? Yeah, you bet your ass I did. Because I'm still going to try to show up as my best self. I'm still going to try. I still want to. There's a part of me that wants to put that perfect image out there, even as I struggle to know that I don't need to put that perfect image out there. In fact, what I know on a deeper level is that the people watching this or listening to this later are going to resonate more with the most authentic parts of me, the parts that are telling you the truth about all the crazy stuff I did to get ready for this show, rather than the glitzy show itself. Authenticity is the new perfection. So with that being said, This brings me to today's topic, which I'm going to do another fancy title, and let's see if it works. Boom. So I'm learning even as I go. Today's topic: what the heck is a life coach anyway? I would use the HE, double hockey sticks word, but I'm not sure if some of the social media platforms are going to ding me and take me off. So I'm going to try to clean up what is a normal, regular potty mouth for me in these lives until I know if I'm allowed to say F-bombs and whatnot. So I'm playing it safe. What the heck is a life coach anyway? I'm a life coach and I am a hot mess. Like all life coaches, I'm not an expert on your life. You are the expert on your own life. That's the beauty of seeing a life coach, is that they understand that the medium that we're working with is the client's life. And so who could be more of an expert on their life than the clients themselves? I consider myself to be a public learner. So in this show, I plan to share with you the things I discover along the way in the hopes that we can all begin to use what we learn to improve our lives. Because when each of us improves our individual life, that's how the world improves. If you're anything like me, then you want to save the world. You have grandiose dreams. You have this idea that you are somehow a superhero and you have a purpose and you were born on this planet with a great destiny. Prophecy foretold it from ancient times, and you are here to help save the world and save the planet. So those are my delusions of grandeur. However, the first big revelation is realizing that means we have to save ourselves, that we have to show up for ourselves, to care for ourselves, not selfishly, but practically. Because if your life improves, then the world improves, because you are part of the world. There's no separation. It's all an illusion. Alan Watts talks about this, and I'm going to get a little mystical and a little profound for a minute, but he gives the example of the bees and the flowers, like how they rise together. They are found always together in nature. Or if there's not a flower, then there's some analog to a flower. And if there's not a bee, there's an insect that's an analog to a bee, because the bees and the flowers feed off each other in this ever evolving cycle of growth. It's the same mechanism. And without language, we would see the obviousness of that. But we label it. Those are bees and they're flying around. That's a flower with the beautiful, colorful petals. And so we think the flower is one thing, the bee is another thing. But actually, the bee-flower cycle is one thing. And if we didn't have language, the ability to chop things up into little different pieces and look at them and analyze them, we would be living on a regular basis in the knowledge and understanding of that oneness. The sun and the moon, the oceans and the shores, they are part of a continuous whole. But we think ocean, oh, that has a definition. It's water, it's wet, it's liquid. Shore, that has another definition. It's the thing on the edge. It's oftentimes made of sand. Nowadays, really, it's polluted. But actually, they're one thing. The oceans and the shores are one thing. Just like a droplet of water isn't actually separate from the ocean of which it's a part. So there is no separation except for the way that we cut it up with language. And life coaches can help us see that more clearly. And if we understand that there's no separation, that there's a oneness to the existence on a planet, to the way we exist on the planet, there's unity, then we can start to see clearly that finding and following our own true nature, our own passion, our own joy is actually adding joy to the world. When we think, oh, I have to help XYZ, I have to do this first, we're actually adding an experience of exhaustion to the world, or we're adding an experience of disconnection to the world. It doesn't mean don't go out there and do altruistic things, but do them from a place of pure joy and freedom, because they're truly what you want to do. And this is what life coaches can help us understand. They can help us uncover what it is we truly want to do that has been buried over by culture. Life coaching can be a transformative process. I get coaching every single week. And if I didn't have coaching, I would be in therapy. I mean, there's lots of differences between coaching and therapy, but coaching is a way to find great clarity in what you want to do and tune out the din of lies from culture and messages from family, messages from friends, the voices of our parents in our head, the voices of our teachers in our head, all the beliefs that were instilled in us that no longer serve us. Coaches can help reflect back to us what our truth and what our clarity is. So one of my mentors and Oprah's favorite life coach, Martha Beck, gives this analogy that a doctor helps sick people get well, and a personal trainer helps mostly well people get really fit. And there's a similar analogy between like a therapist and a coach. So a therapist helps people struggling with deep trauma, wounds, past childhood stuff, and helps them become well. And a coach helps people that have dealt with that stuff or who are feeling mostly well and whole become extra fit, become extra healthy, become extra clear. Now, you can see a therapist and a coach at the same time because they're working on different aspects of your whole being. Oftentimes, therapy is like past and present focused, whereas coaching is present and future focused, helping us see what it is we want in life and how we can go about achieving it. Coaches ask powerful questions, and they help us find the answers that lie within us. We are the experts on our own life, and the coach doesn't give us the answers. They don't have the answers, but they can help us find the answers, that they can help us find what lights us up, what is our passion, what is our purpose, and help us recapture the joy of being alive. I like to say a coach is 7 parts mirror, 2 parts pep talk, and 1 part resources. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys today. And this is not a pitch for you to necessarily find and need a coach, but I know there's just so much out there in the world right now. There are a lot of people saying they're a coach, and I wanted to explain a little bit, about the transformation of human consciousness that I think we're undergoing, so that the accelerated pace of changes that are happening on the planet can seem a lot less scary to you guys. And then also to just explain a little bit what a coach does. And social comments display here. Check them out and showcase on the stream. So that's me trying to figure out some stuff as I talk to you, because I'm wanting to turn to the chat now and see if there were any questions coming from the chat. Thank you, Sona. I appreciate that. Yes, I love Alan Watts as well. Thank you, Laura. This is so fun. Wow, the Restream, the technology. This is so interesting. I'm having a blast learning how to do Restream. Beautiful. Suzette, thank you for being here. I'm so glad. This is so wonderful. Okay. Wow. So I'm going to have fun playing with those comments in future Restreams as I get a little bit more adept with this. But for now, let me just turn to some questions that I got from people ahead of time. I was nervous, in full transparency, I was nervous that I wasn't going to have enough viewers. And so I asked some life coach friends of mine and some close buddies to send me some questions that they were curious about. And I'm just going to read through and answer some of those questions with the last 5 to 7 minutes that we have left. So Dimpna asks, if anyone can become a coach, how do I know how to find a good one in general for me? That's a great question, because I actually have had experience with some internet gurus out there who say they're a coach, and actually when you present your problems to them, they're just like dutifully trying to solve your problem by piling on all kinds of advice. And if you are in a situation where you've started to work with a coach and what you're getting is all kinds of advice and opinions from them, then that's probably not really coaching. That's more of a consulting situation, because there's a difference between a coach, a therapist, a consultant, and a mentor. And if there's time, I'll get into that a little bit. But a coach is someone who helps you discover your own answers by asking lots of powerful questions and expertly holding space. And all it means to expertly hold space is to not be afraid of big emotions, to not be afraid of not having all the answers, and to let you as the client explore what's going on for you. So if you're in a situation with a coach and you're feeling free to explore, you're feeling that sense of expansion, like this is a safe and non-judgmental place, and they're not trying to solve my problem, but they're just trying to hold space for me, then you've probably found a well-trained coach. Also, you can ask about credentials. I would say, like, don't be shy to ask coaches what their training is, how long they've been at this, because if someone is going to have a problem with answering questions about their training and their credentials, then that would tell me that they're not actually confident about what they're about to do for you. And so you might want to save your money and look elsewhere. Sophie asks, do I need to have a clear goal in order to work with a life coach? I have such trouble setting goals. Would it make sense to consult a coach? Yes, definitely. Definitely it would make sense to consult a coach. And no, you do not have to have a clear goal in order to work with a coach. Sometimes the reason to work with a coach is because you're like, I don't know what my goal is. And if you don't know what your goal is, then you don't know when you've hit a bullseye. So how can you know when you've hit a bullseye if you don't know what you're aiming at? a coach, a good coach in a session, will help you at the beginning to determine a goal for that session, an outcome for that session, something that you'd like to have shift within you so that you and the coach are partnering on a target for you. And if that target is, I want to know what my broader goals are in life, that's okay. There's really no wrong subject matter to bring to a coach, because the coach isn't going to tell you the answer. They don't know the answer. They're not an expert on anything. They're an expert on holding space, and you're an expert on your own life. So yes, if you have trouble setting goals and you want help with that, find a coach and talk to your coach about that. That's a great question. Bettina asks, what are some topics that a life coach can help me with? Also a great question. I think the sky's the limit here. I mean, if you're dealing with like mental health issues or medical issues, then you want to seek the proper professional, like a therapist or a doctor. So I think the way that you can tell is that if you're seeking coaching, then you want it to be on something that's present focused for you or future focused for you. If you're looking for deep healing from emotional wounds that still cause trauma responses within your body, then those are probably something you want to seek a mental health professional for. Or if you have medical concerns, then you obviously want to make sure you seek a doctor. But if for any other problem at all, a coach can help you, because what the coach is going to do is hold up a mirror to you and say, have you thought about it this way? What can you make of this? Or I wonder why you react that way, or tell me a little bit more. And they're going to help you discover within you what is true for you at the deepest level. They're never going to tell you how it is, because they don't know how it is. Any coach saying they do know how it is probably trying to be a consultant or a mentor, because a coach doesn't know. A coach holds space and is okay with the uncertainty. A coach is an expert at not knowing. They're an expert at being okay with uncertainty so that you can relax into your own uncertainty, because coaches understand that it's in the place of relaxation, the place of peace and calm, that wisdom emerges. And so they'll help you become peaceful and calm with whatever topic you're bringing to the table. I hope that makes sense. Suzette asks, so what are some green flags that say, go hire, yes, say yes to this coach when looking for a coach? That's a great question too. And I'll end with this, which is one of the main coaching tools in the Wayfinder coaching model, which was taught to us by my favorite mentor, Martha Beck, is called the body compass. And so each of us has within us this beautiful internal technology that can help us discover what's right for us and what's wrong for us beyond what our mind will tell us. And it's about tuning into sensations within you rather than thoughts or emotions within you. And so what that means is like when you're trying to make a decision of some kind, if you feel like your mind is saying, yes, I need to do that because I should go for the promotion, but you feel in your body this sensation of like a clenching or a dread or some kind of like anything that doesn't feel like freedom, that's your body's wisdom saying to you, maybe this is a no, or maybe think more deeply about it. And that's the same with coaches. When you're interviewing coaches, when you're looking on a coach's website, tune into your body. And instead of just saying with your mind, do I like what they're saying? Do I like what they're about? Ask your body, how is my body reacting to what I'm seeing on this webpage? How is my body reacting to the conversation we had in our consult call? And if your body isn't feeling lighter or more free or more excited to move forward with that coach, then that's probably a red flag. A green flag is when the relationship with the coach tastes like freedom, when it feels like freedom. As Martha Beck has often been known to quote the Tao Te Ching as saying, the ocean, we know that a body of water is the ocean because when it's the ocean, it tastes of salt. And we know that something is on our journey of enlightenment because enlightenment always tastes of freedom. And coaches are there to help you become lighter, to help you reach your highest and best self. And so if working with that coach feels like freedom, then you know you're moving down on the path to your enlightenment. And if it doesn't, you might want to keep looking. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I had a blast talking with you all and sharing my heart with you. And Hot Mess Life Coach will be back again at this time next week, 10:30 in the morning Eastern on Wednesday. And keep your eyes peeled on the social media feeds for what the topic will be. And if you want to learn more about me or what I have to offer, you can visit lifestoryhacking.com. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you again soon. Mwah!